Here's our planet, planet Earth, and here we are. Now in general, us humans have been very terrible to the Earth, and extinctions and other bad things have happened to the environment everywhere we go. But in the last few hundred years, since the start of the Industrial Revolution, we have really stepped up our game and started to do real harm to the Earth, and in particular, our climate. Now many of us don't really understand the problem, or know effective ways that we can individually do our part to fix the problem that we have created. So here we go. Climate change, super condensed, and some helpful ways that we might be able to stop it. So what is climate change? Do you know how it works? Let's start with some definitions. The EPA says that climate change refers to any significant change in the measures of climate lasting for an extended period of time. In other words, climate change is the change of any weather phenomenon that lasts for a while. Global warming is just that, a warming effect that has been occurring since around 1975. Let's back up for a second. How does global warming work? Briefly, it has to do with how light is reflected. When sun rays hit the Earth, the visible light spectrum, or the light you can see, is the primary form of light that penetrates the atmosphere. It is very high energy light. When this light hits the Earth, it is converted into lower energy light called infrared. From here, the light tries to bounce back off the Earth and escape out into space, and some of it will. But gases like CO2, which are considered greenhouse gases, will actually absorb the light. This light energy is heat, which, under natural circumstances, keeps the Earth at the right temperature. But when we add on the order of nearly 40 billion metric tons per year, it isn't hard to imagine how our climate might be getting hotter. In fact, the temperature has risen around 0.13 degrees centigrade per decade since 1970, which equates to around a half a degree to the present day. Now, while this may not seem like a lot, consider the Arctic. Here, giant plains of ice reside on land, and if the temperature is sitting around 0 degrees Celsius, any rise in temperature will cause the ice to melt. This consistent rise in temperature each year is now causing the ice to melt and continually make the ocean levels to rise. This has created a whole host of new problems, from ocean circulation changes to habitat changes. But for most humans, the most devastating facet of sea level rise occurs in coastal cities. It is especially bad in cities like New York City, New Orleans, Boston, Miami, and Norfolk, which all lie below sea level. And when oceans rise, these major metropolises could receive huge amounts of damage. In fact, a 1.6 increase in sea levels could cost New York City nearly $2.1 trillion in assets. Nearby Atlantic City has seen ocean levels rise 8 inches in the last 40 years, so New York could see this happen quite soon. So what can we do about it? There are lots of easy things that we can do in our daily lives to do our part in reducing carbon emissions. First, and probably the most obvious, is to drive less. This could mean carpooling with friends to class or even riding your bike. Another way is to buy local foods, because that means that the food has not traveled nearly as far as it would have otherwise, and that definitely cuts emissions as well. Finally, avoid buying plastic water bottles, as they are not only made of plastic that comes from fossil fuels, they also have transportation emissions as well. Together, we can make a difference to clean up our Earth, and in the process save ourselves lots of money and reduce destruction. But we all have to make a concerted effort to do our part.
Created using Powtoon.